Okay, looks like everything's running. Hey everybody, Carl here, and I want to welcome you to my little story of me building my aircraft, mainly my Pietenpol air camper. Uh, Now I'll get into that a little bit more as this thing rolls on. I want to also let you know that I'm still on this new software, this OBS Studio, and I think I know what I'm doing, kind of. But we'll see as it goes, and I'm hoping that it's working right now. Also, I wanted to let you know that I tried to put a chat, and I think it's there, and it should be working on the side. I cannot type, I'm going to be honest with you. It's really tough for me to read if anybody posts. I will try my best, and I'm trying to put my voice levels down so it's not breaking your eardrums either. Okay, somebody's here. Geez, to be honest with you, I can't even read that. That's how bad it is. But at least you guys will be able to communicate between yourselves, and then later on I'll be able to read them when it becomes a video. But I just wanted to let you know that. So, and don't think that I'm ignoring you or anything like that. It's just that uh, the print, because I'm looking at two screens, and the screens are shrunk down, and then the chat's even smaller. So I mean, it's hard for me. I can't see that stuff. But like I said, I wanted to tell the story of my little aircraft building adventure. As many of you may know that know me, know that in my early teens I started flying. I actually started in gliders, and it's just always been a passion of mine. And so I've been flying for years. I started out. I would get my student ticket, and once you get so many hours, you can solo on that if the instructors let you go. So I used to do that all the time. Uh, and it's not the way to do it, and you can't take anybody up, and you're restricted. But at least I would be able to get in the cockpit, and I would be able to get some air under me. I'd get some experience. So you know, that's just what I did. But it was always tough because it's so expensive. Even when I was younger, it was like crazy expensive. It's now I don't even know how people do it. You got to have deep pockets nowadays if you want to do that. It's gotten so ridiculous with the cost. But one of the things that I always thought of is I thought it'd always be cool to build my own aircraft. And that was like a pipe dream. It's like that ain't really going to happen. So time went on. Like I said, I was flying. Eventually, I got my private pilot's license, but still, it got so expensive to fly. I thought, what I'm going to do? I think I'm going to try some of those ultralights. Um, you fly, you get around. I mean, it's not like getting in a Cessna and taking way off, but you can do a lot of flying, and it's a lot of fun flying. So that's what I did. I went out and I went to this place called Air Ray Ultralight Park. It was up in Petersburg, Michigan, and I took training up there because it's actually, even though you're a pilot, you need to train in ultralights because it's a different kind of flying. And I actually flew and was taught in two-seat Challenger, and those are really nice planes. But I ended up, I thought I'd buy one. And what I ended up doing is I ended up buying a Condor 2. And this is like kind of like they're like a Quicksilver, and there's other planes. They were built really sturdy, and and they flew. I mean, they flew real easy. They had a Kawasaki engine on, 2 cycle, and they were fun to fly. So, well, heck, and I got it at a reasonable price, so I bought it and I flew it for a while. Well, uh, I had an incident where I was coming in one day. I was on my approach coming in, and I had an engine out, and I didn't have enough speed and to get any lift to even try to glide in and land. It just dropped down, and I hit the ground and busted it up pretty bad. I was lucky enough. Minor injuries. I walked away from it, but it totaled my plane. And so I got real depressed, and you know, I took this big bundle mess, and I had it in the hangar for a while. Then I got a trailer, and I trailered it home, threw it in my garage, and it sat there for a while. And then I went back, and I'd fly regular planes every now and then, and I got to a point where I just, I ought to do something with that plane out there. And I went out and looked, and I thought, I can maybe build something. And I talked to a couple guys that were in the building ultralights and experimental aircraft. And one guy said, you ought to put some Challenger wings on that. Make it a two surface, because if you see in this picture, these are almost like kite planes. They have a top surface, and they really don't have that flat bottom surface that you see on a lot of on most wings. So they're almost like a kite, and so I got thinking about it, and I started laying out some designs. And I went out and because the Challenger was such a nice plane, I got some plans for the Challenger, and I was looking at the wing, and the wing specs were a lot like the Condor. And I thought, you know what? Maybe I'll just do that. So what I did, I ended up building an experimental aircraft because it was too heavy to be an ultralight anymore. But it had the two surfaces, and instead of having all the, let me go back once real quick here. On this plane, if you see this long post on top of the wing, that's called the king post, and it holds all the cables on the top that hold the wings up, and it also helps hold the tail. And then below that, you also have cables that run from the end down into the frame of the ultralight, and then that gives you your box support. Well, I didn't want that. So what I did is on this plane, I built wing struts, and I designed it so it would be solid like a regular plane. And I also took tubing and I made the tail area supported. And now I'm going to be honest with you. I never took it up way in the air. I ground hopped it a couple times. It was kind of unstable, and I think if I would have messed with the center of gravity more, I could have got it more stable than what it was. But the way I had it, I was thinking, maybe I can do better than this. And I put that up for sale, and a guy seen it, and he actually liked the wings on it, and he bought it from me. So I was looking around, and I was looking at this plane called a Pietenpol air camper. It was a 1929 design. It was built by this guy named Bernie Pietenpol. And the original plane was a two-seat design, all wood, and it used a Model A engine. And matter of fact, guys still build them and put the Model A's on them. They fly fantastic. But I wanted something a little bit different than that. But I went out and I took the money from the wing, my Condor, and I ordered my first set of wood, and I bought the plans from the Pietenpol family. There's no kit for this, so it's everything from scratch. So I got the silk spruce from Canada, and I got enough to where I could build the fuselage and the tail. That was my That was my first part of it. And this is why I first designed it and started putting it together in my basement. And then when I had to actually put the fuselage all into one piece, I dragged it upstairs and put it in my living room, and that's where I started building it from there. Because yeah, I couldn't do it in the basement anymore because well, I wouldn't have been able to get it up. So I started working on it, and I got the fuselage together, and then I also started getting the metal. All the steel was chromoly 4130 steel, and for the most part, I had to weld everything, like the landing gear, the engine mounts. Some of the controls, though, they actually they said that it'd be better to braze some of those parts, and I did, and they worked out great. But you can see some of the I first originally designed it with dual controls for the front seat and the back. I later thought, that might not be a good idea because I actually knew a guy that he had taken his nephew up or something, and they were making a bank turn, and I guess the kid did something, grabbed the controls, and he couldn't get out of time. And they spun it in the ground, and they were both killed. So anyway, I thought, maybe having controls up front might not be a good idea. So, I mean, I got all the controls together and I was putting everything together on that. And let's see, let me. Okay, now, like I said, the original aircraft was designed for a Ford Model A motor. And like I said, like guys fly them, they're really cool. They swing a really big prop. I decided that I wanted a Corvair engine. I'll tell you why. In 1960, the designer Bernie Pietenpol, who was quite old by then, but he'd seen these engines in this Corvair that Chevy put out. And the cool thing about the Corvair engine, it's a inline, horizontal, air-cooled engine, just like an aircraft engine. And the cool thing about it is, and it has a really strong thrust bearing. Now, guys were building airplanes with Volkswagen engines, and that's if they were like ultralight plane or something, that's okay. But the Pete's a lot bigger aircraft, and there's a lot of pull. That prop is pulling a lot on the crankshaft. You need a strong thrust bearing. So I went out and I found a Corvair engine, and it was out in the country behind this guy's garage on a pallet covered, and it was a mess. But I brought it home, took it all apart. I had all the manuals and everything for it. I had the design that Bernie said that you had to do to convert it to an aircraft engine. And so I started, like I said, from last nut and bolt. Started rebuilding it, doing everything I had to do to make it a good engine, and it started really come together for me. And it kept looking better and better. Now that prop hub there, my son-in-law, his family had a machine shop. I had found a great big piece of bulk aluminum, and I'd gotten the specs for this hub, and I asked him. I said, "What would it be to do this?" And he goes, "Don't worry about it." He goes, and they took it, and oh my goodness, what a wonderful job they did. That was, I mean, I can't even tell you how beautiful. It looks good in the picture. You ought to see it right there. It was just incredible. God bless him for doing that for me. That was really something. Now, besides the engine, I had to work on the gear, and I went out and I found some Yamaha or Kawasaki. I went to a cycle shop, and I got two, I think they were Kawasaki rear wheels, and I used them for my wheels, and then I built the landing gear. And the landing gear uses a bungee system for the suspension. It's a lot like the Piper Cubs use, a little bit different, but same principle. And then for the tail wheel, I bought the tail wheel on eBay actually, early eBay, and I went out and got a leaf spring at the local major spring place here in town, and I had to stiffen that and get that right, but that came out real good. I was real happy with that actually, and it continued to get closer to being an airplane. I had I went out. It took me a long time to get all the instruments. It was pretty cool. I had a compass that was actually out of a B-17 that had flown missions in Germany during World War II. That was like a kind of a prize thing, and most all my instruments that I bought for this was they were old, and they were so they kind of fit the part, which I thought was pretty neat. And by the way, that in the picture in the lower left, now that's the center section that, and the wings attached to that, and that's what it's above your head, and that open area there is where the gas tank went. And I built, I took I took cardboard and I made a form, and then I took fiberglass and made two halves. I put in the fill spout and the petcock area and all that, and I sealed the two pieces together, and it turned out, it was great. Turned out really good. The only thing was I had to watch the fuel because you couldn't put this alcohol laced fuel in it. So I just I figured, well, aviation gas does not have that, so I didn't really worry about that much. Uh, but that was the center post, and then you can see lower right where I was getting the fabric put on it, and so it was really coming along. Here's some other shots. These are outdoors. The one is where the tail, I pretty much finished working on the tail, and then I had my engine pretty much together. The the prop that I had, that was a Cincenich. I think that was like that prop, and it was a beautiful prop. That's like $600 just for the propeller, and I kind of got a deal on it. So that's pretty cool. You can see it's got straight pipes going down, and then I can show you now on the engine here. If you see these pipes that are coming off the top and running down underneath, the Corvair came with carburetors on both sides, which is cool if you're going to be driving around on the ground. But when you're up in the air, even in the summertime, you can get icing form just by the condensation, and things happen and you can form ice. So what I did is I had these tubes fitted for me. I put an SU carburetor, mounted it on the bottom underneath the engine, and then I also made a heater box to go around that, and I ran oil lines. My oil lines actually went through there to help keep that warm, and that was kind of a job. And that was my own design. And I'll tell you what, that engine, oh my goodness, that Corvair engine, it ran so nice. It was so smooth, it was like a sewing machine engine. It just, it was just wonderful. I mean, that was talk about a good choice. My goodness. But so there you go. I'm and this last this last picture. Where am I at here? Over there. Okay, that's the only picture I have of it sitting in the hangar. Um, it was all, pretty much done, ready to roll. I was working on getting my airworthy certificate for it, and that's when I started getting kind of sick. So ended up, I never really got to fly it. And, but I tell you what, people go, oh man, doesn't that drive you nuts? And I go, well, yeah, I would have loved to have flown the thing. I mean, I would love to be flying it today. But that wasn't to be. But I'll tell you what, the experience that I got from building this plane and my first plane, it's just something you could never get. You can't get it out of books. You can't get it even hanging around watching. You have to be hands-on doing it. And if you do that, oh my goodness. The experience in that, and when I was done and I looked at it, I thought, oh my, wow, I did that. I built this. And I ended up selling it to a guy who actually had another one. And and there's a whole group of people that have these aircraft. They're you see them at Oshkosh, and then they also have another meeting area where just these planes come in, and they got a great safety record. Uh, but like I said, it wasn't. I don't even fly anymore. I don't even fly the Cessnas anymore. So, uh, Piper Cubs or anything. So, but it was really cool to build this, and so that was my home built Pietenpol air camper. And like I said, I'm trying to see. It's really really hard. I can't read that. I wish I could. I don't know if I can. Hold on, let me try something here. Okay, I can. I'm still, to be honest, guys. I can kind of see it, but on this one, I'm. If there was some way I could have made it bigger, but like I said, this program, and there probably is. There probably is. I'm touching the surfaces of this program, and I know there's a lot more tricks and things to do. But first of all, and I know this is getting a little long, but I want to thank everybody for coming and sharing this with me. It's something I've kind of wanted to do for a while. Uh, and it's one of the bittersweet things. Would I have still like to be flying it today? Yes. Would I be able to? Uh, you know, I could now since I've had my heart deal, and I'm doing a lot better. Yeah, and I could fly it under a sport pilot deal where it's a little more restrictive than what I had with the private, but I could do it. But is it worth it? And then I'd still have to have it in a hangar, so that's a cost. That's like, hangar fees up to $300 a month. You have to have insurance. You have to have this and that. It'd be really tough to do. I mean, it was squeezing me when I was working and making money. And so, yeah, I mean, but the experience, wow. And you can't buy that. What's it worth? It's priceless. You can't buy it. So, okay, everybody, I'm gonna be signing off here, and like I said, I want to thank everybody. I truly, from the bottom of my heart, when people come out and support my goofy stuff, I appreciate it. I really do. So, If you guys are in the line of the storm coming, be cool. Uh, it's gonna get heavy, and you know what? It's gonna affect like the whole East Coast. Like it's gonna drag water over Florida up the coast, so they're gonna get a lot of rain. They're gonna get storms, and then when it hits the main part, that's gonna be crazy. And everybody north of that 540 line, we're gonna get a lot of snow. They're talking we're going to probably get 6 to 10 inches, which doesn't sound like much, but when it's dropped in like a quick time, it messes with the traffic. They start putting out. We're under a number three stage. Nobody can drive. You go out there and drive, and you don't have an emergency, you get arrested. So I mean, you can't go anywhere. You're stuck. And But I just want to thank everybody again. Everybody have a fantastic evening, and I hope to talk to you guys real soon. Take care, everybody. Bye.